doing what I do on this channel, it is very, very often I will be in a position where people ask me, what do you think this will happen? Will this happen? What do you think maybe that I got asked on today's Good Morning Walk, what do you think the timescale will be potentially for a general election happening this year? When do you think it will happen? And I get things like that, from time to time, and I will very gladly give, my opinion. I always make, sure that it is my opinion, but I say this is why I think this might be, the case. And of course, I can be wrong on that. That's fine. That's what happens when you make these types of predictions. And sometimes you end up making a different kind, of prediction. So we had very recently, of course, Rishi Sunak come out and say, oh, Northern Ireland being in the single market customs union is absolutely fantastic. It's going to be wonderful for Northern Ireland businesses. And as we've said before, this week and last week, not only now are you going to be getting more and more businesses from the rest of the UK to wherever going, well, hold on a second, we had that access as well. And now we no longer have that access. In fact, we've already seen this week as well. A small SME in Corby had to close down because it lost about 60% of its business and 70% of its annual trade pre-Brexit was with the EU. This isn't unusual. This is not an outlier. This is something that we have covered time and time and time again on this channel. The SMEs, these small businesses, are always going to be the ones paying the price because they use the single market to be able to expand into it. So I made the prediction in the which video was it? Yeah, with the Northern Ireland businesses, how they responded to the Windsor framework. And I said this very clearly. It would not surprise me to see maybe in a year or two to see a Brexiteer advocate for single market membership, about how wonderful the single market was. I said a year or two, guys, a year or two. I did not expect it to happen within a day. I was not expecting it to take place within a day at all. But that's what happened. So before we get into Andrea Leadsom, her comments on this, please do remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And of course, as always, please do remember to, oh dear me, ring the bell as well. So, on with this. What happened? Well, Andrea Leadsom hasn't said the UK should all join the single market customs union, but as we always said, this, Northern Ireland being in that situation, it begs the question of, well, why can't the rest of the UK have that access? And the SNP have already called out Sunak for this, saying, well, look, Scotland voted overwhelmingly to remain, like Northern Ireland. Why can't we have that access as well? So it's not something I think that just the SNP should be calling for. I think it should be all pro-European MPs, and as we discussed very recently, I think rejoining the single market should be our first top priority. That is what we should prioritize first. And then eventually we can rejoin the EU. But for the time being, rejoining the single market customs union, I think, should be our biggest priority, because we talked, again, just a couple of videos ago about the importance of the sort of the soft versus hard the hard levers, shall we say. And the hard levers are never going to accept single market membership or having to accept, the four freedoms, one of them being, of course, freedom of movement. But soft levers, on the other hand, are very, very willing to accept single market membership and to accept freedom of movement, provided it is sold to them properly. And I think the best way to sell that to them is with a very simple phrase. Basically go, look, freedom of movement means freedom to work, not you know, freedom to, I don't know, what did we say now? Not freedom for of like benefits, or I think we said something like that. But I think selling it as, freedom of movement is freedom to work. And I think that is the sort of the correct way to sell it. And I think that, to be honest, very, very quickly, very good, snappy phrase. I think that we should be sort of starting to sort of spread that message. But we'll get into Andrea Leadsom's comments. And remember, Leadsom, massively pro-committed Brexiteer, very, very Eurosceptic, very Eurosceptic, and very, very much a on the pro-Brexit side. Remember, she was, next to Theresa May, our potential prime minister not that too long ago. It could have very well been a Leadsom versus May conservative leadership contest, but of course it didn't come to that because, as we said, one of the things that marked that contest was the number of people that just dropped out and said, well, I don't think it's my time yet. Because I think they all knew the chaos that was about to come. And unfortunately, May was the one who, shall we say, received the poison chalice. But anyway, let's get into her comments. So, what did Andrea Leadsom had to say? Well, in an interview with a BBC interviewer, she had this to say. She said, it says, I like expression that said this, that Miss Leadsom, a leading Brexiteer, said that the deal gives Northern Ireland a unique opportunity for inward investment. But she acknowledged to the interviewer that it would also lead to the question about why all UK companies should not be able to access the single market, as they were able to do before Brexit. She said, obviously, that sort of rejoinder from someone who didn't want to leave the EU is, well, we all used to have that, she told the interviewer. But the reality is, Northern Ireland will be integral and a precious part of the UK, which is a free and sovereign independent nation, but will also have access to the EU single market. Actually, wrong. The UK does not have full access to the single market. It is just that one area. If you are not operating within Northern Ireland, you can't access the single market. that is straight it. But this is what she went on to say. If businesses on the mainland wanted access to the single market, they should invest in Northern Ireland, she said, adding it would be fantastic for the region. It'll be a win for Northern Ireland and for GB business, added the former business secretary. Except it won't, because the likelihood, although the more likelihood, is that, well, you might just move your entire business. You might move all those jobs as well into Northern Ireland. That will not be good for the UK business because it won't create prosperity for all and be amazing for these businesses. They'll just pick up and move. And how long before we start to see that? Because remember, we saw this with businesses just moving into Europe completely. And she's right. We did have that access before Brexit. So why can't we have that access again? If it's okay for Northern Ireland, why is it not okay for the rest of the UK? Because those exact same arguments that they are making about how amazing it is. Rishi Sunak saying, oh my God, this is one of the most dynamic investment zones in the world. Well, if you put all the UK back into the single market, that counts for all the UK as well. And the SNP so far, I think, are the only party that have called out Sunak for his hypocrisy on this, saying, well, why can't the rest of the country have it? Why can't Scotland have it? And this is something we can push for. We can massively push for the UK to now rejoin. And I think we have to start looking at targeting those soft levers and start pulling them over to the single market position. So, As always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can all buy me coffee. And as always, we'll see you all next time.